This episode is brought to you by Kiko Socks. With a pair of Kikos, you'll have an experience that keeps you focused on your performance and not your feet. Use our coupon code POD15 for 15% off your order at kikosocks.com.
I hope you guys enjoyed the pod. Be sure to follow us on Instagram or YouTube at podpractice_pod. Email us at show@podpracticepod or listen on Spotify at podpractice.
You're
I think
right.
the point is that
that's
we're different.
like
We
the
gotta be able to-
Kobe thing. Do you
You're right.
remember that quote? I think Phil Jackson was like, you got to realize that your 7 out of 10 is most people's 10 out of 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
And
I can be Kobe. That's fine.
be Kobe. But not like. But see, you don't want to be like end of career Kobe that was like yelling at him, like had all his how they all were shit at practice, even though they were. So I guess
They
it's
were.
like fair.
Yeah, dude. Like,
But it's not gonna make the team better. That's for sure.
All right, let's riff. Let's try to do this.
All right. All right. I'll just intro off the dome again.
Dome.
Welcome back to another episode of Pod Practice, episode number 20. Myself, Alex Atkins, Quinn Finer, Mikey Lund joining you today talking about ultimate team gossip and the AUDL Championship Weekend. I hope you enjoy the episode.
We're recording this on a Friday. It's been a long week for me. How are you guys doing?
I'm great.
I'm tired, Grandpa.
Why are you calling yourself Grandpa these days?
Have you never seen Holes?
I don't.
Have you
I don't
never
want to
seen-
keep digging.
Yeah. I'm tired, Grandpa. And then he goes, "That's too damn bad." You've never seen that?
No, I don't know what you're talking about.
It's a reference that we've been using a lot. I think Jarv Plow and I started using a lot, and now it's just a thing we've been saying.
Yeah, that's
I can't believe you've never seen that.
that's throwback.
Yeah, send it to me later.
Yeah.
You've never watched Holes, Mikey?
I don't know. I guess
Shia
not.
LaBeouf, Find the Onion. Sweet
Oh,
Onion.
I mean, you know who that
Malin.
is.
Good movie. I don't even watch movies, and that's a classic. But I was like growing up watching that.
Before we get going, big shout out to Kiko Socks and Lisa P. Happy to be promoting her awesome Kiko Socks that if you're watching, I'm holding up a pair. I like the all whites. I know a lot of people prefer
Classic.
color,
And
but I'm a plain
She just
guy.
dropped a new pair, so go get some.
Yeah, what are
with
those? To the
Pod
strikers.
Get some.
They're
Yeah,
called
the striker.
strikers.
Yeah,
I like it.
so go get some with our code POD15 to save some
Ooh,
money.
what if we did Bravo and then we cheered? Get some on 3. 1, 2, 3. Get some.
It's like our New York New York.
That would be a tough cheer. Get some.
So what's on the agenda today? We're gonna maybe drop a few Kins bombs if we're lucky, and maybe take the audience through our journey through the club season a little bit in terms of practice and culture, with not going too specifics, but how we're approaching things and maybe things that we're struggling with and things that we feel like we're doing well.
Yeah, I think we should just start using the pod as like whenever we have a problem, we just get the world to give us answers. Like,
Yeah,
we're
solve
like,
our problems for us.
how do we run this drill? How should we what's a good drill for this? And then we just ask the pod audience, and then they'll tell us.
The podience, I like
The
that.
podience.
The podience. That's what we can call our fans.
Yeah.
Our
But
audience,
that's
our
like
potty
everyone's
eye,
a pod.
Yeah.
Pod. Podlings. They could be podlings.
Yeah, maybe we should.
We could workshop it.
Podlings?
Help us workshop.
Help us workshop.
Yeah. Help
Solve
us.
our problems, please.
Yes. Yes. We give us answers. Who do you want to be? What do you want to represent? Podlings.
Podlings.
I want to run by you guys. I did like a pretty sick, nasty swimming workout yesterday. You ever swim?
Whoa.
Ever do a
Fucking-
swim for a workout?
I hate swimming.
Yeah,
so
I have.
hard. It's so hard.
I almost passed out after every rep of like we would do. I was at the Lafayette YMCA, nice outdoor pool, and we would do like Dell and I were there, and we would go like one lap and back, and like as fast as we could, and I would almost pass out after every one. Like I was doing it as fast as I could, and and then you get like a little water in your mouth, and you're like, I actually might pass out now because I can't breathe. Like even when
how's your form?
I'm a good swimmer.
Really?
I swim pretty well.
I am not. We should get Jay to help us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He swam in college, right?
Yeah, J17. He went to the
college?
world. He went to the. He went to the like
Maybe
Olympic
not.
trials. Says
Really?
Jay. Says
Well-
Jay went to the Olympic trials. Jay also, for everyone
on.
that's listening, Jay also said he ran a 4.240 in his prime. That would be, comment if you think yes or no. We need. Oh, I guess if it's on YouTube, you need to tell us if you think Jay in his lifetime ran a 4.240.
He might be
Jay-
playing a different sport then. He was a freak athlete, though.
He
Yeah,
said he
was
ran a 4.2 official.
laser timed.
Laser time.
Keynes, you want to drop any bombs on us, or are we moving? Are we saving those?
I don't know. I
Drop
feel
the
if you
bombs,
bomb at
dude.
the beginning, everything will be destroyed.
Good point.
What happens after a bomb is dropped? You gotta drop
That's
the
not
bomb
a
at
good
the end.
point, Mikey. Don't tell him it's a good point.
Shit.
You gotta drop the bomb at the end, dude.
Immediately after the last episode, I went to watch Oppenheimer with Noah and Ty Wynn.
Good segue.
Speaking
God, dude.
of terrible bombs, yeah, no clean segue off of that, but good movie.
No clean segue.
Was it, I feel like
That's
was it
true.
boring? I feel like it's got to be so boring.
It was thrilling. I would
But then
say
I hear like
tension.
it's like a documentary at the end.
I wouldn't describe it. It was a Christopher Nolan movie. You know, it's like intense.
Intense.
Okay. Well then,
Jay did swim in college. I just found his
Olympic trials.
his swim cloud.
Wow.
he's a swim cloud. What does that mean? Like, is that like
That's like it's like huddle. You know, like when it's like where all of his times are.
Oh, okay.
17 seconds, dude. Look it up.
Jay Frude. Shout out. Looks like he just got done with some sprints too, which is nice to see.
It is good to see.
That is
All right,
good.
drop the bombs, Kins. Come on.
Oh, so we're dropping bombs? All
I'm
right.
dying to hear 'em.
Well, if you're watching championship weekend, next weekend you'll see me on the broadcast.
You said
Yeah.
pregame? Yeah.
Pregame. My job is to be
postgame?
like Charles Barkley. Pregame and postgame. halftime
You're
show.
the Charles. I like that.
I'll be Charles Barkley.
I'm kind
I-
of jealous they asked you.
Well, I did the game, you know. I did
know,
a
I
game,
know.
so
He's got some reps.
I
He's
got
proven.
some experience, dude.
Yeah.
I'm
Who else is
proven on
going to
the
be there? Do you know?
broadcast.
Can you let us know?
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, I know that Charlie, Evan, and Brian, sorry,
Oh.
Jones.
are on they're calling the game, and then it's me, Ian. I have to look at the emails. It's like some Radicals veteran doesn't even play for them anymore, and then a coach of the Hustle, I think. So
Miranda?
Tuba?
not Miranda,
Tuba.
might be Tuba.
Oh.
I honestly I can look at my email, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious.
Um,
I think shout out Brian Jones. I think he's a good announcer. I like
Yeah,
his
he's
announcing.
insightful for
Yeah.
sure. He's been doing it a long time too.
Yes, it is Tuba. Me and Colin Camp,
8
Oh,
goal.
Colin Camp, yeah.
and then Turner.
Freaking actually Colin in 2012 maybe Nationals scored 8 goals against Mama Bird in semifinals.
Oh,
John
no.
Randolph.
John
Oh,
Randolph does.
He
He was-
John Randolph.
So is John
Although-
even that good?
well,
but
John
Colin
did for
Camp
10
did it?
goals against us.
Yeah, but once you get 8 to 10, it's like
Yeah, and then afterwards, Colin was on the Next Gen tour. Oh, so that was it must have been 2011 that he did that because the Next Gen tour was, I think, 11, 12, 13.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
So there you go.
nice
I'll be
little
on
panel.
I'll be on the broadcast.
Tell him I said hi.
I'm gonna be the. I told Toner that they can be like nice about everything, and then I'll say what everyone's thinking.
Yeah, that's why.
Wow.
That's why we love you,
Yeah.
for better or worse.
I'm not gonna be mean to people though.
You should.
No, I'm not gonna be
Okay.
mean to people. It's like their family and stuff is watching. I'm not gonna be mean. It's just not right. This is not right. It's not right anyway, even if their family wasn't watching.
Do you want to drop these other 2 bullet points, or
No.
you don't even want to mention
Unnecessary
them?
bombs. Nah, unnecessary bombs, I think.
Okay.
Those are just sad bombs.
Secret
Yeah.
sad bombs.
Pain bombs.
So
Yeah.
moving on, then, the topic of the day is practice mentality. I've been just word vomiting culture code content on YouTube, and it's somewhat pertinent as we navigate through the season, figuring out the practice dynamic, figuring out team dynamic. We touched on this a little bit, I think, last week, but yeah. Do you guys have any immediate thoughts in terms of not just like not how our practices have been, but what the main purposes of a practice are? What you're trying to accomplish out of a practice, and the mentality that ideally we're bringing to a practice. The general we.
Well, I think it's interesting you put like skill work and conditioning in there. I've been thinking about that recently.
With
And
a
I
little
think-
question mark, right?
Yeah, exactly. With the question mark. Just because like you were saying, like, what's the goal of practice? And I think that's like an interesting question. Like, what should the goal at practice be? Like, I think we tend to do a lot of like concepts and schemes like as a team, and we're like learning how we're like system and like that kind of stuff. And there's not a lot of like skill or conditioning, and I wonder how that changes throughout like the levels, like if you're on a college, should that look different than a club team, or on a YCC team, should that look different, and like why you think you should do those different things, I think is a interesting debate, and like what should take,
Is there one that you'd want to focus on today? Or
well, I'd be interested in what you think, like which ones do you think it should always be like how much room at like a club level do you think there should be for like skill work or conditioning, or like
yeah, and
like,
you can also think in terms of time of season, like are you preseason, are you in season? My personal opinion is that skill work should be done outside of practice, like individual skill work. We are trying to find more time. We're calling it, the coaches are unofficially calling it Mike's Corner, potentially Coach's Corner, where I may pull people aside if we identify like, Zeke is a sophomore in college. Like, is there something that we can spend a one-on-one time with him that older players don't need, or Cosmic Tim, guys like
Connecticut
that. Connecticut Tim. And then the conditioning piece, like, no, I also don't feel, well, 2 things. One, right, we talked about this last week a little bit, how I guess the best way to condition for your sport is to play your sport. That said, though, like sometimes we work on so much scheme that
well, that's what I'm saying. What do you
much.
think all of practice should be spent on? Do you think it should always be ski? Like, do you have any thoughts, Quinn? Like, do you think it should always be scheme system stuff? Like, what kind of stuff should you be doing at practice in your ideal world?
In my opinion, it should be a lot of like scrimmaging, a lot of scheme, and a lot of that stuff, because like skill work and conditioning are able to be done outside of practice. The stuff we're talking about, like schemes, scrimmaging, all of that, is not able to be done outside of practice. You need your collective there.
Yep.
For both of those things, conditioning and skills, you only need yourself. You could argue that you need multiple for skills, like
Yeah.
1 or 2,
Yeah.
3, 4, maybe.
Yeah.
But that is a much easier thing to do than to get the whole team together.
Mhm.
So that stuff needs to be. And again, like we get into the unfortunateness of like everybody having jobs and not being able to dedicate
Mhm.
the time to it. So that's another thing.
And
but
that's a
in an ideal
factor.
world,
That's a big factor,
it is.
though.
It is a
that
big
you can't
factor.
ignore.
It is.
You know, I think an interesting one is like I've always thought teams could work on. Well, I think breaking the mark is a good one, and I also think like hucking. Like I think that like when I go out and like throw with people, you can. If you want to do it to a moving target, it's hard to have it with just like 2 people in your normal throwing sesh, because then it's like a conditioning and a throwing sesh, which is lit. And I highly recommend you do that sometime. If you only have 2 people, just like run a bunch of insides for each other, run a bunch of deeps. I mean, the deeps I've done by myself for people, and that is like a fucking workout. I'll like give like people who I think should work on a little bit of hucks, like I'll run deep for them like 5 times. That's a good workout and skill thing. But I just think teams could work on that at practice more, like hucking and breaking the mark, because you have so many people that can run and make the cut for you, and you just get a bunch of reps in a row at it. And I think that's a skill that would help a lot of teams if everyone could do them better.
I would attribute. So I really like that. I would attribute like my hucks being where they are today to just during COVID, Plow and I, like every single morning for probably a year straight, would just go to Kit Field and just like sprint back and forth throwing each other hucks for like 2 hours, like every day. It was actually absurd. And I think that's like a big part of why my throws are where they're at now.
Yeah, because what I was going to say is a lot of people don't throw hucks unless you're a hucker. Like I've always been a hucker, so I throw hucks at practice. So I get to practice my hucks at practice because I throw them at practice. If you're not someone who hucks it typically, and you're a little like they're not at the point where you want to be throwing it in a scrimmage yet, you have to go and do it outside. And then like we're saying, like, I mean, one, I think a lot of people just aren't going to do that depending on their commitment level. And two, like it is a lot easier if you have a bunch of people there who can cut back and forth for you. And then you're developing people who can like now like, break the mark, their hucks. And like, I think that would be a pretty valuable thing for a lot of teams.
How much time would you want to spend on it?
Yeah. I mean, that's the next question, I suppose, is like how much you would want to balance. I mean, I do like playing a lot. I think, let's say I was like breaking up like my ideal practice, or like how much practice time, if I was breaking up all the practice time we had in a given year into like percentages of what we could be working on, definitely playing would be like probably near 50%, like either mini or sevens, like any type of something v something ultimate would probably be near like 50%. And then you could go like, this is completely off the dome, by the way. Like this is not something I've thought about.
50% feels low.
50% feels low. But yeah, so I would say like 50% for this, 25% for like some skill work, and 25% for team tactics. That's my initial off the dome.
First draft.
Even like just giving you something to react off of.
Cool.
Let me prompt you with a few culture pieces, and then we can kind of go into, maybe we will give a little bit of insight on what we've been working on with skill work in the last 2 weeks at Bravo practice, and then kind of give ourselves a self-critique here. So culture pieces, like pieces that are important for a high-performing team, high-performing organization with good culture, generally has 3 very important things. One is a safe space, so build safety, and that we've talked a lot about this over the pod, like allow people to express themselves, show belonging cues, praise effort, active listening, things like that, buying in. The second one is being able to share vulnerability. So as leaders, sometimes that means a little bit of self-deprecation, maybe, or just letting people know that you don't have all the answers, or asking for advice. And then the third component is establishing a purpose, which, all three probably sound very obvious out loud. But, things like slogans really work for driving home a purpose, and to repeat it over and over and over again, because it really does become part of your identity.
Yeah.
New York, do work.
Yeah.
Colorado, get some.
So with that in mind, though, like, we've spent more time than I would like on skill work in the last 2 weeks, partly because we feel like we just needed it. And in my opinion, the reception has been a mixed bag, and I don't think positively or negatively of that generally. But what do you guys think about that? Knowing that, we're working on something that's not ideal for practice time. We do have a data point, though. We worked on it for exactly 10 minutes yesterday. Was that enough? Was that not enough? Was that useful? Was it not useful for a team, that is, I mean, we're literally defending national champions. Like,
Get some.
Not a big deal.
is it useful? Is it useful for us, or is it not?
I watched it and it seemed like there's some use in it for sure. I don't think we're at the point yet. Like, there's some people I watch do it, and it's a lot of the younger ones too. And I'm like, damn, you're really doing a good job. Like, you're moving the mark. You're like doing like things correctly. I think there's a lot of people that just like need to work on it still, though. I don't think we're at the point where like even the highest level teams don't have people who need to work on breaking the mark, hucking, marking. I think those things are so crucial, and like they're just like skill things of the game, like how to mark, how to break the mark, how to cut deep, all these different things. And like I do think there's still use in doing them. And I really liked how we did it yesterday, where it was just like you throw a bunch of break throws real quick in a row. It doesn't take a long time. It's kind of like what I was talking about earlier. And then everyone can like bring that focus and intention into whatever we're doing later. And I think it's pretty useful.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. I had fun doing it. So I don't know if I feel like other people did too. And I also feel like it was like a good start to practice that kind of got people like involved. Like people were ready to play after that, it felt like.
And constantly moving.
So yeah, so even if it didn't like help, I think it helped our practice.
Because the pace was high, so people were warmed up after that.
Yeah.
Like the group I was watching had like 2 groups of cutters that had to cycle back and forth.
Yeah.
They did not stop, like, unless the thrower was switching.
Okay, so from the perspective of safety, then, and I'm talking
that
like
perspective.
buy-in. I'm talking buy-in, like for focus and intensity. Knowing, like, hearing feedback from players, I know that you guys like to compete, so we are trying to make sure that we are allowing you to compete more and more. What do you feel like? How do you ramp up to focus? How do you ramp up with focus and intensity, knowing that we can't be competing all the time?
I on my drive, I always drink a Red Bull and listen to music like really, really loud, like just insanely loud, so my eardrums hurt.
Are you like seriously disappointed then if we were like not doing something?
Oh yeah, so that's sometimes why I get frustrated. Why when I get to practice and we're like, just kind of
But
whatever.
even the break mark that we were doing was competition, I would say, because there was a mark and it was live-ish kind of. I mean, I guess you were supposed to give them a preferred look, but like it was pretty live. So I would say it was pretty good comp. Like I love the break. I think like 3-person mark is like a great warm up, like because the mark gets going. I did it a little bit yesterday and it was really, really fun to do that. And I think it's a good way to get warmed up and focus on a skill. So I think it's like a little bit of the best of both worlds.
I think to answer your question though, I think that's kind of what separates like the best teams from like the other good teams is like the best teams are doing everything that they are like doing everything regardless of if it's like actually competing or if it's just like something that you're like doing walkthroughs or whatever. The best teams are definitely doing all of that stuff with the highest level of intention and effort and focus, regardless of if like you're like all pouty about it and like, oh, this
Yeah.
drill sucks or I don't want to do this or
Yeah.
So
I think that's a good point because I think most of the stuff you're going to do at a practice are like good enough. And they're at the point where it's like what you put in is what you're going to get out. And so therefore it's like really on the individuals to like have that mindset and put in. And as long as what you're doing isn't insane, which I think most teams are not doing things that are insane. I think really like it's your perception of what's going on that's defining that. So like if you bring the focus and intention to whatever drill you're doing and whatever you're doing and are getting better, like that's almost the most important thing. And that's an interesting question because like whose job is it to whose responsibility is it more to create that intensity and intention? Like is that on the individuals or is that on like how much does leadership play
Yeah.
a role in creating that kind of culture,
I thought a really good point you made last week was establishing mindset before going into a game so you kind of know what to expect. And, our Tuesday practice may not have ended or gone as intensely and as focused as we would have preferred. And then with that in mind, and also with what you said last week in mind, Kins, was why I wanted to plug the Culture Code again by Daniel Coyle. And why I had you guys do the before action review questions, and for those of you listening, there's 4 of them quickly, and it's just what are your intended results, or what are our intended results? What challenges can we anticipate? What have we or others learned from similar situations, and what will make us successful this time? And that, I was very much had that in mind when I was thinking about like rather than trying to like being upset that we may not have been as focused, like, okay, why were we not focused? And what can we do differently this time? Like, can we add a little more competition to things?
Mm-hmm. But I don't even know how much the competition
Matters.
Like for creating the intensity and focus. Like I guess it helps in some ways, but like if you're doing some drill not that focused, I don't know if you just started a game right after that, like how many more people are going to be focused just because it's a competition now.
Yeah. What in do you guys, do either of you have an opinion or perspective on when a team or when a practice isn't going well, when people are not bought in? What are the main reasons you think for that? And it could be the coach is an idiot. That's like
Yeah.
100% valid.
Yeah. What I've noticed from being on the sideline recently is that I think a lot of the time the focus during those practices is on external things. Like each individual is focusing on things external to their own like position and what they're doing, like I think a lot of like you're focusing on obviously some of your focus should be on like the scheme, whatever you're learning, but you shouldn't be focusing on it to the point of like you can't focus on what you're doing. You know what I mean? Like I just think when you hear a lot of players talking about things that aren't how can I do this better? Like what can I do better here? Like that kind of stuff. That's when I think that's more of a like a sign that things aren't going as intensely as they could be is when people are focusing on other things beyond themselves.
Are you talking about like stuff outside, like at work in your personal life? Or are you talking about like how somebody else is doing and
Yeah, I think it probably looks a lot of those ways. Like it could be you're distracted from work and you're thinking about that and you're letting that affect like your play. It could be like other people. Like maybe you're annoyed at the coaches, maybe you're annoyed at your teammates. You're focusing on like the fact that someone else isn't playing well. You know what I mean? Because I think when I get down to it and I start to recognize that those things aren't going well, like the only solution I get for the most part is like, okay, I just need to make sure that I'm focused and intense right now. And that hopefully will,
Yeah.
grow and cause the spread of more intensity and focus if I am doing it myself. And then there's like some little things that you can do, like, do more high fives, like get hype after someone does something well or like a little thing well, those kind of things. But for the most part, it has to start with you because if you're not bringing that, and that's why I think like you need more of that out of everyone because if they're focusing on other people, they're not focusing on getting
Yeah.
themselves focused and intense for whatever you're doing.
Quinn, any thoughts for you on why people may not be able to be intense or focused?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think a big thing, like we talked about it last week, but I think a really big thing is working all day and then going to practice is really difficult for a lot of people. So like I almost think that structures of practice should be different on days that are like work days because people have a mental load on themselves like all day at work, right? So coming in to a practice and like having another mental load is really difficult.
Yeah, it's a good point.
But like if they are able to just, and I think that doesn't help them detach from their day, as opposed to like if the practice is built around on a work day, is if it's built around them just showing up and like just turning their brains off and just like fucking playing frisbee and competing a little bit. I think that's a much easier thing for people to do because their brains aren't stimulated, but their legs will be,
Yeah.
and their muscles will be, as opposed, it's the opposite of what they were doing all day.
Release some hormones and endorphins or whatever.
Yeah, it's
that's a
exactly
good point. I like that.
like I think a good example of this was on Tuesday. Like Jay has been working like crazy, and every time he went onto the field for like a point, it was like a turn right away or a huck score right away. And he was just like losing his mind because he couldn't like just
Dogs just
get
want to run sometimes.
like he just wanted to play. Like he couldn't have the cathartic experience of just playing he just like was just stuck. And like every time he walked in the field, it was like a second and then it was off. And it was just like,
That's funny.
That's
yeah, so I think,
interesting.
just like mental load is like something to think about. Cause I feel it myself, like after I've had a long day, like showing up to practice and like having to
Listen.
then turn on my mental load for frisbee is like, oh my God.
Do you think
I'm gonna
immediately after
explode.
dynamic you guys could play threes and be fine physically? Like just
Probably.
I
But
could.
then you could. I also like the other things of like. I don't think those skill things are like a mental load, and those are kind of fun. Like a
No,
little
they're
bit
not.
a little bit of competition. You even start ramping up even more, and there's nothing you have to focus on other than like yourself doing these like few things right. So
Yeah.
that's a really nice warm up into it as well.
So, for the listeners, at the start of a lot of our practices, we would run a drill that we took from Nut in North Carolina. Seattle folks did something similar too. We call it salmon ladder. What's your review of salmon ladder as a start? Pros and cons. And do we need to explain what that is?
Probably have to explain salmon
Probably
ladder.
explain it.
Well, we'll just say it's a sort of a small sided game where you just get lots of touches, not
Yeah.
super intense, but you can warm up your throws a little bit, your legs a little bit, and your voices quite a bit.
Yeah. And it's intense, but it's in a small space and you're really limited where you can go. So it's like, you can't like run around like crazy.
So do you guys have a perspective on starting with it? Does it get stale? Do you like it?
I do think it gets stale. I think it's really good. I loved it. I always loved salmon ladder and it would always get me hype. But I think like doing different things is important and like diversifying what you're doing because there's so many different things and different benefits that like once you get the benefits out of salmon ladder, you can try something else as like a warm up. drill. And you can always go back to it as well, and then it'll be great. But like, I do think switching things up is good.
Yeah, I almost think it's like people have too much fun and like fuck around too much doing simulator sometimes, because then when we try to like do something productive after simulator, everybody's like chatting and talking and like laughing, and we can't actually fucking say anything in the circle because everyone is so like, let's have fun after simulator. So
Well,
I don't know. I do like it though.
That's a good after action review.
Yeah,
Is that what it's? Yeah,
Sure.
AAR, which is
AARP.
like what the actual results were and what how we can change and what we can keep. Yeah, like we maybe just have half a dozen mini games that you rotate through.
I like this. I like the skill stuff too.
I do too. I think it was a good balance of like focusing on myself and how I can improve right now, also competing and also warming up. I think it was like a good balance of stuff, especially with the competition aspect like we had at last practice, as opposed to just having
stationary
throwing and stationary marks, essentially. Like having a cut in like a real mark. I think that's good.
Yeah, like a real mark is good. Like, another fun one could be that people could work on hucks is you have like some designated throwers and then you do one-on-one downfield cutting.
That's fun too.
And then you could work on your deep hucks. You work on your underneaths and whatnot. Because I think you could do that, and I think you could do like the one-on-one resets, which was also really fun.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, but it just seems like when we do that, people don't treat it like a drill we're doing it 100%. Like, it's just like we're just going through the motions when we do that one.
When we do like yeah, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
I still think it's a good. I think all those one-on-one things are like a good option for competing, but working on a skill that you'll be using in a game. Good warm-up.
Okay, so in terms of building safety, we've talked about buying in a little bit, how to structure things to make it easier to buy in. I think it is still a little tough if we're talking from player perspective, captain's perspective, and coach's perspective. I do want to move on to the next, to the how can you share vulnerability component, but
yeah,
from my perspective as a coach, getting buy-in is very important. And I mentioned this last night at practice that I have a lot of social anxiety. It's just hard for me to interact in groups. And even now, like we've done a lot of these podcasts. Every single fucking time that we jump on here, I have butterflies in my stomach, like even though
that
it's
is
just like
insane, Mikey.
the three of us that are talking. In this moment, like I feel, the anxiety. So like if I don't get buy-in, that anxiety just continues to build and build and build. So that is why, like, honestly, one reason why I was so appreciative of Ben, because he made me feel trusted and credible. He made me feel like that I actually had credibility.
Yeah.
I have a question for you guys on like buy-in though. Like, do you think that people can buy in to a fault? Like that they buy in so much that it's an issue?
Yeah, 100%. There's like too much, and then you're just
what's a good example? Cult.
Like
sure.
Like a fucking
that's not really what I was saying,
that's definitely
but that's true.
But that's the example. Like that's what happens. All of a sudden, like you don't question anything. And you're just like everything that Mikey says is law until he like has us all come over and like drink some Kool-Aid, and then that's it. And then no more call.
Yeah, and then we're dead. No, then we're on the comment riding off into the sunset together.
But I think that is like super valid though, because I've been on teams that were
like doing
we're just buying in
stuff
so much to something when the thing that we're buying into is just fucking stupid.
Yeah. Well, that's where I think this balance exists of you buy in. Like at the beginning of a practice, when the coach says it, you got to buy in and try to do it. But any reservations that you have about it, you should feel free to express at a later time. And that's part of like the vulnerability piece. And that's why I think these two things are so
Yeah,
intertwined
the
is like,
safety piece, and also the after action review, the
yeah,
feedback loop. Like you
yeah,
have
like,
to
mhm,
have the space to share it, and for
yeah.
both sides to be able to
Sweet.
collaborate.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
sounds
that's why
great.
the vulnerability is so crucial because someone needs to be able to share with me that they don't like what I'm doing, and if I get upset at them because I think they're wrong, then like I'm not being vulnerable, and then like you're hurting that kind of like interaction, and you're not making them feel comfortable to like share with you. And then I think it's part of it is like the buy-in part is like picking those times to express those emotions. Like you want to express them at a certain time, but like if you're saying something like in the huddle or at the beginning of the practice, like you need that is the time to like try to buy into what the coach is saying or like whatever
Yeah.
who is saying it and do the exercise.
Um, and I said this earlier. I don't remember if it was while we were recording, but Joe Durst, another one of the coaches of Bravo. When I was teammates with him, many people describe him as the best teammate that they ever had because he was always bought in to what
Mm-hmm.
was ever being done at practice, and maybe to a fault. Like but he didn't care. Because he was all about establishing one hive mind, hive mentality that was on the
Yeah.
same page.
Yeah, which is sick. And that's like the trust. And I mean, I think that's the goal of any team is like you stop you're like you're no longer like 28 individuals and you're just one individual team. And that's like the dream
Right.
of like it like that's the best you could be is like all of you working as one instead of like 28 individuals working. And that's why I think Joe is a good coach. Like I have like very little understanding of like what Joe thinks strategically about Ultimate, but in terms of
Sometimes it
like
doesn't matter, right?
it doesn't matter because in
Yeah.
terms of like Joe establishing the culture of the team, I think it's like invaluable, to have someone who establishes that culture because I mean, I don't know what's more important, but like what is a good scheme without a good culture? It's nothing. Like it's like you need both of these things. Like
Right.
if you have the best scheme but no one runs it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I think a bad scheme could be a good scheme if everyone buys in.
Exactly. So I think like in a lot of ways, like culture and like establishing that is, much more important than the X's and
I'm
O's.
just thinking about the culture code more and more as you talk. It's like they talk a lot about Popovich and how Popovich is all about one-on-one relationships, building those bonds. Like
Mm,
he like knows what people's families like. Like he knows what bottles of wine people like to have.
It's crazy.
He like makes reservations for like a player and his wife, and then has like a menu sort of preset for them,
mhm,
like all these little things to show that he cares, and it
mhm,
goes a long way. And
mhm,
they don't even really talk about what he does strategically. It's always about the culture. Even though he's very stern, he's very
mhm. But you
caring.
get that respect when like you can be stern and like intense with people if you have that respect from them and
Yeah,
they know that you care about them.
right.
Wish I had the money to do that. That'd be sick.
To do what?
Set reservations with
Yeah,
people
I know.
with
Should I do
with
that for you
set
guys?
menus.
But I think it's like Mikey was saying. I think it's like even like the little things. I think like
Yeah.
going up and saying goodbye to everyone and like looking them in the eyes and just like dapping them up and be
Yeah,
like, "Yo, I'll see you next practice." Like I think those little things are like even just how you
yeah.
start, And then yeah, maybe you have a conversation with them at some point,
The
like
fact that Spicer does that and Denny does that are very, very meaningful to me and the other coaches I know.
yeah, I think it's good teammates, I
Um,
think.
Another thing that you were mentioning, I can't remember, it was around the topic of either buying into a fault or like stupid strategies. Basically, the basic premise is okay. I honestly, I don't remember the exact story, but it was like some sort of challenge to like build like a structure, like a sturdy structure out of a bunch of random objects, like a marshmallow and like
Mhm.
Oh,
spaghetti noodles or something. I don't know. And like a group of kindergartners continually outperformed um, adults and like even like well trained people in a similar, like I don't know, fucking engineering or something.
Yeah.
And the reason is because they are collaborative and no idea is a dumb idea, and there's no like one overarching voice where that's dissenting all information and perspective.
I feel like it's like they don't have an ego, you know? They don't have
Yeah,
a
they don't
big
have
of
an
an
ego.
ego. So they're like,
yeah.
it doesn't like your idea isn't dumb because my idea isn't better. And like if you think my idea isn't good, it
Yeah.
doesn't, it's
So
not
they're like, well,
insulting
let's try to put
because
the marshmallow here this time and see what
yeah,
happens. Like they're
yeah. And
just
everyone's like,
continually iterating.
sick, let's put the marshmallow there.
Why not? Yeah, fuck it.
And then you think about like we always talk about it's so hard to play defense against a pickup team, or like
It's impossible.
it's because they do shit that you don't expect, right? It's such a weird dynamic. Like maybe we should practice less scheme. Maybe we should practice less all that shit and just
Playing defense against Rhino is really hard.
yeah. There you go. I mean, they do turn it over, but
The world's greatest pickup team.
you have something on the tip of your tongue, Kins?
No. I mean, no. Not really.
On the on the vulnerability piece here, do you guys have any examples of? I'm putting you on the spot, but how you can proactively be vulnerable? Like, Kins, you mentioned like if someone comes up to you
Mhm.
and say like, "I didn't like what you're doing here." It's you described it being vulnerable if you are accepting of that.
Mhm.
But can you be proactive?
About I think there's some ways you can be proactive. Like I like to tell people if I made a mistake, I like to tell people. I like to go up and tell them that I made a mistake. Even though they know that I made a mistake, now they know that I'm aware of the fact that I made a mistake. And I think that can build a lot of tension on teams is like if so and so messes up and you don't and you're like, well, what the fuck are they doing? And then you guys never talk about it. And now there's just like, well, this guy's an idiot because he doesn't know. And maybe they did know. But the point being, like, I think that's one way to be proactive is like, if you throw a bad huck or if you mess up the switch or like whatever, if you think you made a mistake, like go up and tell someone. But I think it's also just being accepting of making mistakes. Like you just have to go into the activity being like, if I mess up, that's okay. And like, you don't have to try to like defend every mistake you made or just like just let just take ownerships of things that you could have done better. And also it's not even viewing them as a mistake. It's just like viewing opportunities of something where you could have done it better. You know what I mean? I think that's like a great mindset to have is like, it's like less a negative thing. Then it's like, I didn't mess up.
You just decided to put the marshmallow over here. And now you know you can put it over there next time.
Right, like now you have the
now
you have the opportunity to like learn how to do something better, and I think that's like a good mindset of that's the mindset you have to be vulnerable in the practice.
I mean, this one just feels like a product of trust, though. Like
the safety piece,
right? It just feels like a product of trust because if I trust that person like wasn't trying to put the marshmallow in the wrong spot, then I'm not going to be like, well, that guy's an idiot because I trusted that like he was trying to do something that was for our gain, for our benefit. So like it feels like a product of trust to me. Is like if I trust you to throw that throw and you miss it, I'm not going to be upset because that's a shot we want. It's a shot we trust you with.
Totally.
What if somebody does something that you thought was stupid?
I think you have to talk to them. I really do.
Yeah, I agree.
And try to understand like what, you gotta understand or not understand, but like you don't want to let that linger.
You remember when we talked with Liam and he said like he tries to give something like 5 compliments for every negative thing he says. And that's building trust, right?
I agree.
Because if all you're doing is tearing people down and you're never sharing your own vulnerabilities and your own mistakes, then that just creates that toxic environment where it's like, I get it. I'm not a good thrower. Cool. I hear you. You think I suck. Okay. I'm not going to throw that, I guess, and not grow.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, though, I do think it's kind of funny when people self-deprecate in terms of like situations like that, like when we were in the huddle the other night and you were talking about Jar of just like getting out of the handler set, and he goes yeah, let me just get the fuck out of there.
Well, I
Like,
think
that
he
was
was
funny.
joking because Mikey.
Well-
I don't think Mikey should have said that. I
No,
thought it
you
was
mean-
funny.
Well, so
right.
so that's you're right. You're right. Mikey shouldn't have said that, but the way that Jarv handled it was he agreed in a way that he was self-deprecating, and then it was funny and okay for everyone.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
like being like Jarv does know like he shouldn't be in the handler set. Like,
Well,
that's
Well,
just-
I
yeah.
don't think Jarv shouldn't be in the handler set.
I now that you mention it, I think the way I should phrase it is focus on strengths and not weaknesses. Like,
we want Jarv. Well,
yeah,
but
it's because
that's
we
you
know.
tried to reel it in after you said that. You're like, well, it's because we want you to score a goal, is what you
Oh,
said
yeah,
afterwards.
yeah.
But you were just like the fishing line had already like
Yeah,
spun out.
he's like always the example that I use because he's such an extremely phenomenal athlete and receiver that it's
Yeah,
so
see, I
easy.
think you see, like, there again, like, that's an example where I don't think Jarv gets that when you say that. I think he thinks you're saying he's a bad thrower.
Oh,
And
see,
therefore-
that's my bad, right? That's,
Yeah, 100%. Like, I mean, that's how I took it. I thought you were saying Jarv's a
Yeah.
bad thrower. He should not be in the
Well, I mean, he did say he did kind
Well,
of say it like that.
that's good feedback for me, so I can
Right.
adjust.
Mhm.
Hopefully, I can adjust at least.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's an easy adjustment.
Okay, last point here. Maybe we'll call it a night. Is establishing purpose within a culture, and I feel like that's a tough one. It seems like it should be easy.
It's tough, and I think it's tough because everybody's purpose is so different. That's why it's so difficult. Like we were talking about this before we started recording, but it's hard to like understand everybody's like whys behind like why they play. And like for me, it's like, well, I want to win and I want to get better. And what Kin said earlier was getting better looks different for everybody. So to establish a collective purpose is a difficult thing to do because most of the individuals are having different purposes. So establishing a collective one is a hard thing to do.
Yeah. Do you feel like it should be more organic, or do you think it should be like you figure it out on the fly?
I think it'd be great if it was organic, but I don't think it always works that way.
Or I guess you just define it ahead of time. You know, like
Yeah, but even if you define it, there's going to be people they're like that don't align with it. So even if it's defined for them, they're not going to buy into that because it's like, well, that doesn't align with my purpose. Like my purpose is to put the marshmallow there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you can have multiple purposes within a team, like we've talked about. It's kind of like there's just you have multiple purposes, and I think I've thought about this, and I think the biggest thing is like you acknowledge those purposes. Like some people are here, they want to win, we want to win, we want to compete. We like that as part of it, and then a lot of people that comes before maybe even some other things. A lot of people want to like build relationships, have a good community to be in. That's fun. And I think it's okay to have those multiple purposes if everyone's aware of them. And then it's just important that people respect each other's purposes and, like put into like both of them. Like if Quinn wants to win, then like people should respect that. They should also try to do things to win while like they build relationships. Quinn should like not hinder them from like, you don't want to like make things bad. They don't want to like make the team bad. You just want to respect each person's purpose and try to carry on with going towards yours as well while you respect the other one.
It's almost like making a purpose a product of another purpose. So like if my purpose is I want to win and Kin's purpose is he wants to have fun and build a good community. All right, that was a bad example. If Kins does it, yeah, if it was a good example, let's just say that's Kins, is it, whatever.
That's one of my purposes though, for sure.
Yeah, for sure, right? So if my purpose is to win and Kins is that to build a good community and have fun, then my purpose can be a product of Kins's purpose if everybody is feeling like they're having fun and that we're building a good community. That is going to make them want to do my purpose
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
So it's just like blending them to the point where they are products of each other. And I think it goes the other way too, because when we win, our community becomes tighter
We're
Yeah.
sick.
and we have more fun.
100%.
They go the other direction as well.
Yeah.
So it's finding a way to have everybody's purposes align with each other.
You know, like Revolver is probably most known for having intensity, humility, and discipline. I think it's IHD, and
That's it.
I do wonder, does it ever become stale? I'm looking back on some of the Barcelona way stuff, and Barcelona's used to be humility, hard work, and team player. I guess I know Disney had 3, like literally Disneyland. I think the park. Their first one was safety, and it helps you prioritize things. And
Yeah.
as much as the individual purposes matter,
Mm-hmm.
having that team wide one is, I think, very important to get people in the
Yeah.
common ground.
Mm-hmm.
And one bullet point that I've written down is that you have to repeat it over and over and over. You just repeat.
Mhm.
Like you have to, like slogans actually are a good thing. Like if you play against Bravo, you might hear the word bakery every once in a while. And that has meaning to us now, right? And like we feel good when we see it executed properly, and it does bind us more intensely. And
Ours can just be this culture, like these 3 culture code things. But instead of safety, it can be trust, vulnerability, and purpose.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we did it.
It's
Problem
done.
solved.
I like
Now we
that.
just have to say it a
Except the
bunch.
purpose one.
Yeah,
Purpose
it's a
one
little
is
bit.
weird with me.
Support.
I like trust and
For me,
vulnerability.
I guess safety is support, but a big one for me is support. Like,
I like support.
yeah,
That's good.
Support.
yeah, because it almost like, again, like when you're thinking about scheme versus culture,
Mhm.
it's so much easier to implement things if you have support, if you have safety,
Mhm.
and it's all tied around that buy-in. And
Yeah.
it's a
Problem is,
positive feedback.
one that I really
feedback
like
loop.
is like an intensity one or something like that. You know, like I do enjoy that as one of the words, like as something that is about working hard.
Yeah, I'm trying to
Like-
remember what Steve Kerr's are from. I think one of his is competition. I think
Yeah,
Joy is
competition.
his number one, which is honestly why we would say Joy all the time, especially with Summit.
I say we knock out trust because it's too complicated. Because I think if we're vulnerable and we're supportive, we'll build trust. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like trust, there's so many steps to it.
Oof.
Do you know what I'm
Um,
saying though? Like
Yeah.
it's a two-way street. It's very hard. It's very difficult. And obviously
So-
we work towards it, but I don't know what it means to me. I guess it means for me to trust other people.
I guess as we wrap up for the evening, some homework then for our listeners. We got a couple assignments.
Our what are they called?
Podlings.
Well, but I mean, I think the first one is naming yourself, right? Or did we just name them Podlings?
No, they can workshop that if they want.
Please
They
help
can
us out.
workshop it, but leading candidate right now is Podlings.
Yeah, unfortunately.
If you don't have something that's better than Podlings, it will be Podlings.
And then what was the other one? Help us determine what Bravo's
Mission statement, their values are. I think they should be intensity, vulnerability, support. And they can be in whatever fucking order you want. I don't give a fuck.
If you're curious, Steve Kerr's are joy, mindfulness, compassion, and competition.
You get 4. You can have 4. I thought it
You
Yeah,
can
was
have as many as you
3 to
want,
4.
man.
It's nice
Literally.
to.
You could have one.
3 to 5, I would say, would be my
Okay.
recommendation.
Did we get any fan questions this week, or are we dry?
But I think we're dry. I
Fuck.
didn't check the email. So
Oh. Should we give our predictions for
Oh,
championship
yeah.
weekend?
Oh yeah.
Let's do that.
What is it? It's New York, Austin, and then Salt Lake, Minnesota.
Yeah. I'm jealous of Salt Lake. I'll say that.
No, I'm not.
You want to be a Mormon, Mikey?
Well,
Yeah.
I'm just jealous that they get to play Minnesota. No offense, Minnesota, but in semifinals.
That's a good point.
No, I mean it's sick. It's a
Yeah.
it's a great situation to be in. Sigh.
New York's winning it all, and it's not going to be close at all. It's going to
Austin.
both games are going to be a blowout. I'm sorry.
See, the thing is, I want to be like that guy on the thing who's like, I got Austin beating New York. Semis. Book it.
Well, what would it take for Austin to beat New York?
Monumental
New York
collapse from New York. And a really good, I don't really watch that much Austin, I'll be honest. Like, I don't know who would have to have good games for them. Like, I don't know.
It would take like a perfect offensive performance from Austin, because Austin is going to make a couple of big plays, because they make a couple of big plays. They do that.
But New York is just gonna. I think their defense.
I don't think Austin has the consistency on offense to make it a game. I just don't.
Against their defense, and meanwhile,
Dude.
New York's O is like not gonna have like.
They turned it.
What it would take is like New York's O to collapse. Literally, their offense would have to full on collapse.
Yeah, I mean,
That's what would have to happen.
I think Salt Lake beats Minnesota.
Shocker.
And then New York is gonna win by 6. I'm saying it now. The final score of the final: New York, Salt Lake. New York 27.
Whoa.
Salt Lake
27
21.
goals. Wow.
27's a lot of goals, Quinn. That's a lot.
27-21.
27-21.
Our first game was 23-19 for reference.
Yeah, fuck. Do I believe in Salt Lake? I feel like Salt Lake could give them. Nah, they're not. Yeah.
Who would you take in Salt Lake versus Austin?
Salt
Salt
Lake.
Lake.
I got New York winning also, I think. And I think by less than 6.
Less than 6.
I'll go final score of the final. New York 24. Salt Lake
Hot takes.
21.
Are we gonna get Jan on?
We are gonna get on, but it's just like the scheduling's been tough.
The scheduling's been tough, but we'll have to get it out before championship weekend.
Next week, he said he could only he said he can only do Monday next week, and that's the roommate's birthday.
Wow, that's my roommate's birthday.
Yeah, that's your roommate's birthday.
I encourage everyone to call your significant other, if you live with them, your roommate. It's hilarious. Even if you're married, the joke gets better once you get married.
I suppose.
And then if you have dogs, you can layer it. So when you say your roommate, you don't know if you're talking about your dogs. If you have kids, it's another layer.
Yeah,
so
that would be fun.
They're all just
my
your roommates.
roommate.
My little roommate, he just shit his pants.
Yeah, God.
That's so good.
I literally have to take care of my roommate. It's unbelievable.
Oh, my roommate needs his diaper changed again.
you have to feed him.
So you thinking about having kids, Quinn?
No, I'm not.
That'd be.
Well, I can't have kids until I'm retired from playing frisbee. Is the agreement? Well, the discussion that my roommate and I have had.
Dude, I'll be honest. I want to be a professional disc golfer.
All right, see you later.
Would be better for your body.
It'd be better in some ways, I guess. I wouldn't be as it wouldn't be like as
physically
athletic
fit.
of a thing. Yeah.
Let's play.
But it's so sick. They're so sick. The disc golfers are
Yeah.
dope. They're dope.
Yeah.
They have swag. And like you buy like
They do not have swag, dude. Give me a break.
some of them have swag.
Yeah, okay.
It's also swag when you have like, a bunch of people buying your disc. Like that's sick.
That's fucking cool.
That's
That is
cool.
really cool.
That's really cool. I think it's dope. I want to be a disc golfer. I just don't know when that transition would happen, I'd have to live in a different state. Colorado blows.
I was thinking like you could play out your frisbee career till you're like 35. And then you could play disc golf, but at that point, like you're not going to be good at disc golf in time.
Yeah. It's
You'd have to do it now. You'd have to. Yeah, I think you'd have to do it like now. if you
Brody did
wanted
it
to.
late. He's on the tour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
I feel like
is
partly
Brody
because he's
good?
famous.
I
He's
think
definitely
just
good
because he's
though.
famous.
No, but he's good.
But he was the biggest frisbee player like ever
He's pretty good though.
in terms of following.
He's pretty good. I think it's
Like,
either
there's
that
trick
or it shows that if you dedicate legitimate time to it, because he already had the throwing capacity. He just had to putt.
Yeah, that's true.
By the way, he's
I-
the biggest frisbee player in terms of
Following, I think.
being known for frisbee.
If
Like,
I
yeah,
had like a
Marquez is them.
Yeah.
True,
Fair
true,
enough.
true.
Fair enough.
If I had like a decent-ish mentor to like get me a little more disc golf
Well, you
specific
live.
strategy,
Doesn't Eagle live in Boulder, down the street?
does,
from you?
yeah.
he's too big time, dude. He's too big time.
Yeah, he is probably too big time.
He's big time. I met Eagle once in Boulder.
He came into when I worked at Prana in Boulder. He came into Prana with his I think girlfriend at the
Yeah.
time. And I was like, is that Eagle?
I don't think
I've.
yeah.
By the time I figured it out, he was like walking out, and I was like, I'm not gonna.
I've never been so nervous talking to someone. That was like I actually got scared talking to someone. You know, this is actually a funny story. I'll leave you with this. Aylin and Artie were already there. They saw Eagle. They call me and they're like, yo, someone really wants, there's someone here that you'd really want to meet. That's cool. So I go. I knew it was Eagle. Like there was no one else. Like it was in Boulder. It was at like the Rayback Collective thing. Like just like so we were like in Boulder. And he walks up to like go get a water when I'm there. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to go say hi. I'm like, whatever. I was nervous, but I was like, I'm going to go say just like hi. So I go up and say hi and go, what up, Eagle? Like, you know, my name's Alex. I'm just like a big fan, whatever. And he goes, oh, Alex Atkins? I go, yeah. He's like, I've seen your Callahan video. I go, oh, no way. I was freaking out. And he goes, no, your friends just told me to say that.
Oh my god!
Is that not actually really fucking funny?
That's a hilarious joke. Oh
By
my
Aylin and Artie.
God.
I know.
Oh my!
That is so
God.
fucking
And he
good.
remembered it. And it was so funny. And like,
That was
crazy.
amazing.
Do you
It was
think
so
you went
good.
home and watched your Callahan video?
Certainly not. No way.
Yeah, no
Like,
chance.
dude, he didn't even like. I was like,
That's
you should do like a.
fucking
I was like,
funny,
you should do
dude.
like a first pull sometime at a Summit game. You know what a pull is? He was like, not really. I'm like, damn, dude. No respect for the adjacent disc sport.
Oh wow!
Damn, that's crazy.
Crazy. He didn't even know what a pull was. I'm like, dude, you could. It's what you do for a living, basically.
Huh.
It's throw a disc.
So, who do you think is a better? Well, I mean, Eagle's a better thrower, but if you who would throw an Ultra Star better?
We would.
We would not even close.
But I don't know how long it would take them to catch up.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But yeah.
Like, there's no
Because-
disc in disc golf that is.
Do you think you
remotely
could-
close to an Ultra Star?
Could you have an intelligent conversation about throwing with Eagle? You think?
100%.
Me less so, probably, because I fucking hate disc golf. That fucking
Definitely
sport
less
sucks.
so. No, disc golf is so sick, man. It's
No,
so
it's
cool.
not. It's so stupid.
I love disc golf. I think also the understanding of how discs fly are really cool. And then it makes you a better thrower.
I do too. It's an interesting topic to me because like technique is so important to me, and I don't really know much about disc golf.
Yeah. Like they're better at throwing a frisbee than we are, which is interesting and like unfortunate. But like they understand a disc better than we understand a disc. It's different because we are like throwing it around a mark and like they're just like, you know, they're throwing like in just like however they like, but they understand
Gosh,
how to
disc.
throw.
We should get a disc golfer on.
I know, I would want to. They understand throwing a disc better, for sure. Which is crazy to think about. Because their sport is only about
It's
throwing
only
a disc.
throwing. There's
Exactly.
nothing else.
Exactly. And that's why
Of
it's
course
the
they're better
case.
at it.
Yeah, but it still sucks. Like they're not better than me at throwing a disc. I would love to play though. I think I have elite. If I was on tour, I'd be a power thrower. Like I think I have elite distance. I'm not elite distance.
I think
I
you could bomb it.
I think I bomb with the top bomb, not the top bombers, but like at least right behind the top bombers.
What do they throw at, like 700 feet?
It
600
depends. There's
feet?
so many factors,
I think
Yeah.
I can throw very far for an ultimate player, but distance would be a huge limiting factor for me.
For
in disc golf.
example, like in the disc golf distance competition that I watched, where it was literally like, you should watch it on YouTube sometime. Actually, it's a pretty good watch. It's like the best disc golf distance throws in the world. They throw down like a pretty wide, but like still a like fairway of trees. Like it's very wide, but if they don't make it on the fairway of trees, the throw doesn't count. And the best throwers, like even the one guy who doesn't even play on the tour, like he just throws it really far. The top ones would go like 750. Like there was nothing in 800, but they were in the like mid 700s of 700 feet. And this was like, there's probably like a little bit of a crosswind or something to like help them a little bit. It definitely was like a somewhat helping.
I don't
wind.
I don't even know if I can throw 400 feet.
Probably
That's-
not. No,
dude,
you
700
probably. I don't
is
think.
far.
I don't know if you. We could get you there, Mikey, but you couldn't.
But I'm
just-
still a long ways away from 700.
But a lot of it was, yeah. The throw is way different as well. They like throw it really high up in the air. You let it like catch the wind and like fade out.
Oh.
But a lot of them, if they're throwing like a disc golf more like type shot, like line shot, like low, hard, that kind of stuff. I bet if they get like good flip on it, they can get it to like 600. If it's like the best ones, like a low, hard one. But
When I was like playing like during COVID, I played a lot. I threw it. The best I threw it was like 515 or something, like low fives.
it's so
That's
tough,
pretty
man.
good.
Like it's tough because the
Yeah.
courses you never know, like with the
Yeah.
distances and stuff. Like even the stuff they say on the stream, they're like, "Oh, this is like," I'm like, I swear I could throw that shit that far, but they're like freaking out about it. And even
All
like
right, we're rambling about people.
All right.
throw
I
it.
hope you enjoyed this.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the pod,
Yeah.
Podlings.
Yeah. All right, guys.
You know what's funny? I bet that will be some people's favorite part, though. Let us know in the comments, I suppose, what you like. Do you like us talking about culture, or do you like us talking about whether or not we rip as far as the top
Yeah.
disc golfer?
How long would it take Mike to become a professional disc golf player?
You know, we can put that in like as a poll, or like I'll make a post, and people will have to get their reactions.
Yeah.
We need more
And-
questions. I want to know more what the listeners think.
And you know, as hopefully we're settling back into a routine here where we're trying to get stuff out and have some guests back on, and I'd like to free up some more time to post some shorts. So
Yeah.
be on the lookout for that.
Oh, that's another really good thing we should post is like we should make a post and like people should comment if they think we should have who we should have on next and if they think they should be on. Like guest suggestions.
Yeah, throw them out to us. Sweet. It's
Alrighty.
Friday. Go enjoy your evenings, guys.
Yay.
Thanks, everybody. Peace out.
Get some.
Peace.
Get some.
Get some. Colorado.